Welcome to Pathstone's Employee Handbook Training. Whether you're brand new to the team or returning for a refresher, this training covers the key policies that shape your day-to-day experience as an employee. These aren't just rules. They're the foundation of a workplace where everyone can do their best work, feel respected, and support the mission we all care about. Take your time with this material. HR is always available if you have questions after you finish. Let's get started. Here's a look at what we'll cover in this training. We'll start with who we are as an organization, our mission, our values, and our commitments. Then we'll move into employment practices. We'll cover equal employment opportunity, harassment prevention, and accommodations for pregnancy and lactation. We'll also review the code of conduct, conflict of interest, disability and religious accommodations, fraud prevention, and whistleblower protections. After that, we'll cover the day-to-day basics: working hours, pay practices, performance reviews, attendance, the open communication process, and standards of conduct. We'll cover time off, including holidays, PTO, and a benefits overview, followed by safety topics like our drug-free workplace and violence prevention policies. The final section covers workplace policies. We'll look at employee participation in Pathstone programs, media relations, and political activity. We'll also cover gifts and entertainment, employment of relatives, outside employment, business equipment and IT, artificial intelligence, social media, vehicle use, and remote work. It's important to understand that this training provides a brief overview of our most important policies. This training does not cover every policy, nor does it cover any single policy in detail. The purpose of this training is to make you aware of what policies exist. Employees should read each policy thoroughly before relying on them. We're going to start with a brief overview of the structure of our employee handbook. The employee handbook can be found in ADP Workforce Now by navigating to resources. The employee handbook comes in two versions. The first version has all our policies and is distributed to all employees. The second version has supervisor procedures for implementation attached to each policy. There is a state addendum for each state in which we operate. State laws may provide additional protection to employees. In the event that there is a conflict between the main handbook and the state addenda, the policy that provides greater rights will prevail. The employee handbook is the final authority on Pathstone policies. No verbal or written statement to the contrary from any source supersedes its terms. Remember that policies can be changed at any time. Pathstone applies its policies consistently and evenly to all employees. However, because every situation involves its own unique set of facts and circumstances, the outcome of any given matter may differ from that of another, even when the same policy applies. Differences in outcome reflect differences in the underlying facts, not differences in how the policy is applied. If you have questions, you can reach out to your supervisor or to Human Resources. We'll start with a brief overview of who Pathstone is, what we stand for, and an important legal concept that governs the employment relationship. Meet your Human Resources team. Anne Babcock-Steiner is our Chief Human Resource Officer, and she is responsible for overseeing all of HR. She is located at Pathstone's headquarters in Rochester, New York. Isamari Vasquez provides direct support to supervisors and senior leadership on disciplinary matters and division-wide initiatives. Isamari is also responsible for administering the complex employment laws in Puerto Rico. She is located in Ponce, Puerto Rico. Liz Scott oversees all of our benefits, leaves of absence, and reasonable accommodations. She is located at Pathstone's headquarters in Rochester, New York. Juana Molina Llanos oversees our day-to-day HR transactions, such as new hires, changes in status, and terminations. She focuses on Head Start and Puerto Rico. Juana also manages job descriptions, unemployment claims, and internal HR procedures. Clarion Velasquez Santos also processes HR transactions for direct services, housing services, and property management. Clarion also manages requisitions and job postings, and she is our internal ADP expert. Selena Baroa manages employee relations and employee engagement. She is the initial point of contact for employee concerns. Together, your HR team has more than 115 years of experience at Pathstone. Pathstone has been empowering communities since 1969. That's more than 55 years of mission-driven work. Our mission is to empower individuals, families, and communities through collaboration and excellence. We are champions for those we serve. Our vision is to create communities empowered by opportunities for lasting success. We live out that vision through 5 core values: being resourceful, trustworthy, collaborative, committed, and empowering. Through our action pledge, every employee commits to opposing discrimination, centering the voices of the people we serve, and actively promoting social and economic justice. When you understand what Pathstone stands for, these policies start to make real sense. They exist to protect a mission worth protecting. Employment at will is one of the most fundamental concepts in the employment relationship, and it's important for everyone to understand it. Please note that Puerto Rico is not an employment at will state. In simple terms, either party can end employment at any time. Pathstone doesn't need a reason to end your employment, and you don't need a reason to resign. However, and this is critical, at-will employment does not mean Pathstone can fire someone for an illegal reason. We cannot terminate someone because of their race, religion, disability, national origin, or because they reported harassment. Those protections remain fully in place. For supervisors, be very careful about what you say to employees. Phrases like, "You'll have a job here as long as you want," can create implied contract claims. If you have any doubt, call HR before speaking. Section 2 is one of the most important sections of the handbook. These are the policies that protect employees' rights and define the standards for how we treat each other. Every employee and every supervisor must know these policies thoroughly. Pathstone is committed to equal employment for everyone. That means every employment decision, hiring, pay, promotions, training, discipline, terminations, must be free from discrimination. This applies regardless of race, color, religion, sex, pregnancy, age, national origin, disability, genetic information, or any other legally protected status. This policy applies to applicants, employees, and interns alike. If anyone has a disability or a sincere religious belief that affects their work, we will work with them to find a reasonable accommodation. Pathstone is only required to provide accommodations that do not cause undue hardship on program operations. Supervisors should never decide this on their own. Call HR. If you experience or witness discrimination, report it to your supervisor or HR at any time, even after separation. Supervisors have a mandatory reporting obligation. If a supervisor receives a complaint, they must contact HR, even if the employee says they don't want anything done about it. The organization has an obligation to investigate. If an employee reports discrimination and then something negative happens to them at work, that creates a retaliation claim. Retaliation is just as serious as the original conduct and is strictly prohibited. Even if the original conduct cannot be substantiated, a retaliation claim may still exist. For example, if you bring a discrimination concern to your supervisor is not allowed to retaliate against you for raising the concern, regardless of whether your claim can be substantiated. Notwithstanding this, an employee who knowingly makes false claims of harassment, discrimination, or retaliation may be subject to discipline, up to and including termination. Pathstone takes its accommodation responsibilities seriously. Supervisors should never approve or deny a request on their own. Always contact HR first. Under the Americans with Disabilities Act, a reasonable accommodation is a change to a job, the work environment, or a policy or procedure. That change helps a qualified employee perform the essential parts of the job. The process begins with HR. You may be asked for medical documentation. HR will then work with you in an interactive process to find an effective solution. All accommodation requests are kept in a separate confidential file. Pathstone also provides accommodations for pregnant and lactating employees. We are required to accommodate known limitations related to pregnancy or childbirth, and to provide time and a private, clean space for nursing employees. Pathstone also provides reasonable accommodations for sincerely held religious beliefs, observances, and practices. If a religious need conflicts with a work requirement, such as a schedule, task, or dress code, employees should submit the request in writing as early as possible. Pathstone will then work with the employee to find a reasonable solution. In every accommodation situation, the key is the interactive process. It is a conversation between the employee and HR, with the supervisor kept informed, to find a workable solution. Pathstone has a zero-tolerance policy for harassment and discrimination in any form. This is one of our most important policies, and supervisors have a major responsibility in upholding it. All staff must complete harassment prevention training every year. There are two main types of sexual harassment. The first is quid pro quo. This happens when someone in a position of authority offers job benefits in exchange for sexual favors. The second is a hostile work environment. This means unwelcome verbal, physical, or visual conduct that creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive workplace. Harassment is not limited to physical contact. It can include jokes, comments, emails, text messages, social media posts, and gestures. It can happen anywhere, in the office, at a work event, during remote work, in a parking lot, or even by personal cell phone after hours. Any employee can report concerns to their supervisor or directly to HR. Written complaint forms are available, but HR will investigate every complaint, whether it is made verbally or in writing. If you are a supervisor and become aware of possible harassment, you must report it to HR. You do not have discretion here. Supervisors who fail to report will face discipline. Bystander responsibility is especially important for supervisors. If you see it, report it. You do not decide whether it qualifies as a formal complaint. That decision belongs to HR. Retaliation is strictly prohibited. Any retaliation against someone who reports a concern or participates in an investigation will be treated as a separate policy violation. These topics are covered in greater detail during our required annual harassment prevention training. For now, remember this. If you see it, report it. Do not ignore it. Pathstone's Code of Conduct was adopted by the Board of Directors. It reflects who we are as an organization. It calls on every employee to treat people with dignity and respect. Maintain accurate and honest records. Be a responsible steward of Pathstone's resources. And conduct yourself professionally at all times. It also sets clear limits. No false information, no unauthorized use of Pathstone's name or resources, and no undisclosed conflicts of interest. The code isn't a list of restrictions. It's a reflection of the values that earned Pathstone the trust of the communities we serve for over 55 years. Your conduct every single day contributes to that trust or detracts from it. A conflict of interest exists anytime your personal or family interests interfere or even appear to interfere with your ability to act in Pathstone's best interests. This includes situations like working with a vendor with whom you have a personal relationship, receiving gifts over $50 from anyone who does business with Pathstone, or having a financial stake in a transaction involving the organization. Every employee must complete a conflict of interest questionnaire annually, and you must update it immediately whenever something changes. If you're ever unsure whether something constitutes a conflict, reach out to HR before taking action. Disclosed conflicts can be managed. Undisclosed conflicts can put your employment in jeopardy. Fraud and abuse are direct threats to the mission of Pathstone, whether it's theft, falsifying records, misusing assets, accepting kickbacks, or making unauthorized payments to friends or family. These actions damage our funding relationships, our reputation, and ultimately the communities we serve. Every employee and supervisor is responsible for reporting suspected misconduct immediately. If you suspect something, tell your supervisor. Supervisors escalate to their division director, who notifies the CHRO. Employees in federally funded programs have additional reporting obligations specific to their funder. Make sure you know yours. Pathstone strictly prohibits retaliation against anyone who reports misconduct in good faith. Pathstone's whistleblower protection policy encourages employees to report activities they believe are unsafe, illegal, abusive, or fraudulent, and it fully protects them from retaliation for doing so. Reports should be directed to the Audit and Finance Committee. You can report anonymously if you prefer, though anonymous reports may limit Pathstone's ability to conduct a thorough investigation. Your identity will be protected to the greatest extent possible. If your concern relates specifically to discrimination or harassment, use those specific policies. This policy is for everything else. If you believe you've been retaliated against for reporting, notify HR immediately. Speaking up isn't just permitted here, it's valued. Section 3 covers the day-to-day operations of employment, how employees are classified, how attendance is managed, how pay works, and the behavioral standards we hold everyone to. Employment classifications are important because they affect benefit eligibility and overtime requirements. Full-time employees work 35 hours or more per week. Part-time employees work fewer than 35 hours. Benefits eligibility depends on an employee's classification. For specific details, refer employees to HR or to the summary plan descriptions. Employees are also classified as either exempt or non-exempt under the Fair Labor Standards Act. Non-exempt employees must be paid overtime for any hours worked over 40 in a week. Overtime must be approved by a supervisor in advance. Exempt employees are not eligible for overtime. HR determines whether a position is exempt or non-exempt based on salary level and job duties. Supervisors cannot change that classification. Pathstone observes a standard 40-hour work week that is typically 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, though schedules vary by position. Some positions require evening and/or weekend work. All hours are recorded in ADP. For non-exempt employees, any work-related activity outside your scheduled hours, including checking email or texts, must be pre-approved and recorded. You're paid bi-weekly, every other Friday. If payday falls on a holiday, you'll be paid the day before. Direct deposit is available. Payroll questions should be directed to payrollhelp@pathstone.org. Merit increases and cost of living adjustments are at the corporation's discretion, and they are never guaranteed. Depending on funding availability, merit increases of up to 3% are given annually after performance reviews. 1% cost of living increases generally occur twice per year. Non-exempt employees who work more than 40 hours in a work week are paid overtime at 1.5 times their regular rate. But overtime requires advanced supervisor approval. Supervisors should reach out to HR in advance of non-exempt staff travel to develop a plan for minimizing overtime. Any pre-authorized work-related expenses, travel, mileage, meals, lodging, are reimbursed at the current corporation rate. Keep your receipts and submit them on time. For non-exempt employees, a quick note: any work-related activity outside your scheduled hours, including checking email or texts, must be pre-approved and recorded. If you're based in Puerto Rico, the rules around meal breaks and overtime are different, and they can be very complex. Please be sure to read the Puerto Rico addendum and reach out to HR with any questions. Pathstone depends on you. When you're not at work, someone else has to cover, or participants go without the services they need. The expectation is clear: be at your work area on time and ready to go. If you're going to be late or absent, you must contact your supervisor at least 60 minutes before your scheduled start time, using whatever method they've directed: phone, text, or email. Supervisors must acknowledge that such messages are received. If you miss 3 consecutive scheduled days without notifying anyone, Pathstone will treat that as job abandonment and may consider it a voluntary resignation. Legally protected absences cannot be used as the basis for discipline. But if you believe your absence is legally protected, you need to say so. Pathstone's standards of conduct exist to protect everyone in our workplace: employees, participants, and the public. The rules are grounded in common sense. Be honest, be safe, be respectful, and be responsible. Falsifying any records or timesheets is a terminable offense. Theft, threats, weapons, and fighting have no place here. Unauthorized use of corporation resources, even minor things like using the printer for personal copies, is a conduct issue. And if you receive an instruction from your supervisor that you believe conflicts with policy or law, don't just refuse. Contact HR immediately for guidance. Discipline is applied based on the severity of the situation and can range from a verbal warning all the way to termination, in any order. Pathstone is committed to resolving workplace concerns fairly. The open communication policy gives you a structured, protected path to do that. Step 1. Bring your concern to your immediate supervisor informally, within 30 days of the issue arising. HR is available to coach and support you during this stage. Step 2. If that doesn't resolve things, or if you're not comfortable with your supervisor, submit a written request for review to your division director, who will respond within 10 business days. Step 3. If still unresolved, bring it to HR in writing for a formal investigation. This process covers policy disputes, scheduling issues, unjust discipline, and perceived unfair treatment, but not discrimination or harassment, which have their own process. No one will be retaliated against for raising a concern in good faith. Section 4 covers all of the benefits and leave entitlements available to Pathstone employees. This is often the section employees are most interested in, and it's one where supervisors need to be especially careful to apply policies consistently and involve HR early. Pathstone offers a comprehensive benefits package, including medical, dental, and vision insurance, a health savings account, life insurance, short and long-term disability insurance, and a 401k retirement plan. Because a thorough overview of these benefits deserves dedicated attention, a separate benefits training covers all the details. Your benefits information is available in ADP Workforce Now by navigating to Resources and then Forms Library. HR is also always available to answer questions or help you understand your options. Pathstone observes 11 paid holidays each year. All active employees are eligible for paid holiday time from their very first day of employment. Non-exempt employees must work their scheduled shifts both before and after the holiday in order to receive pay, with exceptions for documented illness or pre-approved vacation. Holiday pay is calculated at your straight-time rate for the hours you would have worked that day. If a holiday falls on a weekend, Pathstone will communicate when it will be observed. Employees in Puerto Rico or the Housing Council should check with their supervisor for any additional holidays. Pathstone's PTO program is a meaningful benefit. You start accruing PTO from your very first day of employment, and you can begin using it after 90 days. In your first year, you earn 15 days. That's 120 hours. Your accrual grows with your tenure, all the way up to 33 days per year after 20 or more years of service. You can carry a maximum of 96 hours of unused PTO into the next accrual year, and your total balance can grow up to 600 hours. Carryover hours can be saved, used as time off, or taken as taxable cash. Please note that Pathstone is changing its PTO policy on October 1st, 2026, at which time all PTO will be front-loaded and carryovers and total banked hours will be limited to 80 hours per year. It's your responsibility to track your PTO balance in ADP and to budget your PTO for emergencies and/or illness. Employees are not entitled to leave without pay unless the leave is legally protected. For planned vacations or personal time, request at least 1 week in advance. Approval depends on your department's workload and coverage. This is one of the most complex and most important areas for supervisors and employees to understand. FMLA is the Family and Medical Leave Act, which provides up to 12 weeks of unpaid job-protected leave per year for qualifying reasons, including serious health conditions, care for a family member, and the birth or placement of a child. To be eligible, an employee must have worked for Pathstone for at least 12 months and have worked at least 1,250 hours in the past 12 months. Here is the most critical point for supervisors. You do not have to wait for an employee to ask for FMLA leave. If you know or reasonably suspect that an absence is FMLA qualifying, you are required to notify HR to initiate the FMLA process. Failure to do this can expose Pathstone to significant legal liability. Pathstone also has its own medical leave policy, and we have employees in states with robust paid family leave programs, like New York and New Jersey paid family leave. Other leave types are unpaid, such as attending school meetings, being a victim of domestic violence, or serving as an election official, an emergency responder, or a state legislator. These leave types vary by state. Child-rearing leave is available after birth or adoption and may run alongside FMLA. Personal leave is a discretionary, unpaid leave for employees who have exhausted other leave and have a legitimate need for time away. Personal leave must be approved by HR. Again, anytime an employee has a medical-related absence of any length, contact HR before taking disciplinary action. Section 5 covers workplace safety, an area where both employees and supervisors have important obligations. A safe workplace is everyone's responsibility. Pathstone is committed to maintaining a safe and healthy workplace. Let's highlight a few key policies. Drug-free workplace. Employees may not be under the influence of alcohol or illegal substances at work, on any Pathstone premises, in any Pathstone vehicle, or any other place where Pathstone business is conducted. Pathstone is committed to a safe, drug, and alcohol-free environment for employees, participants, and the communities we serve. No use, possession, distribution, or sale of controlled substances or alcohol is permitted during working hours or on corporation property. Note that this policy includes prescription drugs that impair judgment. If you are taking something that might affect your ability to do your job safely, you must inform your supervisor. Violations of the drug-free workplace policy may result in immediate termination. Employees who drive for Pathstone and hold a CDL are subject to DOT-mandated testing, including random and reasonable suspicion testing. And if you're struggling with substance use, Pathstone's Employee Assistance Program through Bree Health is a free, confidential resource available to you and your family members. Accident reporting. Every accident, injury, or near miss must be reported immediately. Do not wait to see if someone feels okay later. There are legal and workers' comp requirements that depend on timely reporting. Supervisors must complete the appropriate documentation. Violence prevention. We have zero tolerance for threats, intimidation, or acts of violence, whether in person, in writing, or electronically. That includes physical harm, threats, intimidation, pushing, shoving, and the possession or brandishing of weapons. In any form, on any corporation property, including parking lots and corporation vehicles. This applies regardless of whether you have a legal permit to carry a weapon, unless state law dictates otherwise. If you receive a threat or witness threatening behavior, report it to your supervisor or HR immediately. Do not attempt to manage these situations yourself. If you witness or become aware of a threat, whether it comes from a coworker, a participant, or anyone else, report it immediately to your supervisor or HR. In any situation involving imminent danger, call 911 first, then notify HR. Workplace searches. Pathstone may search work areas, equipment, and personal property when there is reasonable suspicion of policy violations. Emergency evacuation. Know your building's evacuation routes and assembly points. Supervisors. You are responsible for accounting for your team during an evacuation. Make sure you know how to do that. Our final section covers some of the most current and evolving policies in our handbook, including our brand new artificial intelligence policy, social media guidelines, and remote work requirements. Pathstone speaks with one voice when it comes to the media. That voice belongs to division directors and their designees. If a reporter, journalist, or news organization contacts you by phone, email, or in person and asks for a comment on behalf of Pathstone, your role is simple: direct them to your division director. Do not offer an informal comment, do not share participant information, and do not try to answer questions on the spot. If you have been specifically authorized to speak, make sure your statements are accurate and professional. When in doubt, the right response is, "I'm not authorized to comment on that. Let me connect you with our division director." As a 501c3 nonprofit organization, Pathstone and its affiliates cannot make contributions to political campaigns or political action committees. Employees who work in federally funded programs are also subject to the Hatch Act. The Hatch Act limits certain partisan political activities. Here are some examples of what is not allowed: using your position at Pathstone to influence an election, pressuring coworkers to make political contributions, or running for partisan elected office while working in a federally funded program. On the other hand, your personal political rights are fully protected. You have the right to vote, express your own opinions, volunteer for political causes on your own time, and participate in a political party. The rule is simple: your political life is your own. Keep it personal and keep it off the clock. Pathstone doesn't prohibit family member or romantic partners from both working at the organization, but it does prohibit those relationships from creating supervisory conflicts or compromising confidentiality. You may not directly or indirectly supervise a family member or someone you're in a romantic relationship with. You also may not have access to that person's confidential employment information. If a romantic relationship develops between a supervisor and a direct report, it must be disclosed to HR right away. If two employees marry or become romantically involved and a supervisory conflict can't be resolved, Pathstone may require one or both to transfer, or in rare cases, resign. Pathstone isn't trying to manage your personal life. It's protecting the integrity and fairness of the workplace. Pathstone does not prohibit employees from holding other jobs. What it does require is that outside employment doesn't interfere with your Pathstone responsibilities or create a conflict of interest. Here are the potential conflicts worth knowing about: working for a competitor, a vendor, or a Pathstone participant; having a financial interest in a company that does business with Pathstone; or conducting activities that detract from your ability to perform your Pathstone duties. If you have or are considering outside employment that might involve a conflict, discuss it with your supervisor before you take it on. Pathstone provides no workers' compensation or other protections for anything that happens during outside employment. Employees and their immediate family members may participate in Pathstone programs, as long as they meet the program's eligibility requirements. This is a genuine benefit. But transparency is absolutely essential. Anytime you or a family member applies to participate in a Pathstone program, you must identify yourself as a Pathstone employee at the time of application. You must also submit an updated conflict of interest questionnaire to HR. And if you're providing program services to another Pathstone employee as part of your job, you must disclose that to your supervisor. Transparency is what makes this benefit available for everyone. Without it, it becomes a conflict of interest. Pathstone employees cannot solicit or accept gifts from anyone who does business with or seeks to do business with Pathstone. There is an exception. Unsolicited gifts of nominal value, generally under $50 in total, no more than twice per year from the same source, are permitted. Meals and light entertainment in the normal course of business are generally acceptable when they are modest and infrequent. Any gift valued over $50 triggers the conflict of interest policy. You must disclose it to HR. If you're ever uncertain whether a gift or offer of entertainment is appropriate, contact HR before you accept anything. Accepting first and asking later is not the right order of operations. If driving is part of your job, this policy is for you. You need to have a valid driver's license. You also need to file proof of personal insurance with HR before driving for Pathstone. You must have a clean driving record. You should have less than 3 moving violations in the last 39 months. There should be no DWI or DWI in the past 5 years. Do not use portable electronic devices while driving. You can take brief hands-free calls, but stop if the conversation is long or if driving conditions are poor. If you have any accidents or traffic violations, report them to your supervisor right away. Pathstone regularly checks DMV records. If violations are found that you did not report, you could face disciplinary action. Pathstone's full IT and cybersecurity policy is on SharePoint in the Cyber Policies folder. The core principle is this: corporation equipment and systems, computers, email, voicemail, internet access, and databases are primarily for business use. Pathstone may monitor its systems at any time with or without advance notice. When you use corporation technology, you have no expectation of privacy regarding the content, timing, or frequency of your usage, including which websites you visit. Violations of the IT policy can result in disciplinary action up to and including termination. If you have technology questions or need support, contact IT at helpdesk@pathstone.org. AI tools are becoming more common in workplaces everywhere, and Pathstone has a policy governing their use. You'll find the full AI policy on SharePoint in the Cyber Policies folder, and you should read it before using any AI tool for work. The core purpose of this policy is to protect confidential information, proprietary data, client records, and personally identifiable information. AI is a tool to assist your work, not a replacement for your professional judgment. Employees are ultimately responsible for the accuracy of AI-generated content, so always review it carefully. You should never input sensitive agency or participant data into any AI tool that has not been expressly approved by Pathstone. AI can genuinely help with productivity, but it can also be a serious security risk if used carelessly. When you're not sure whether a particular AI tool is approved for Pathstone work, check with IT or HR before using it. Violations may result in termination. Pathstone's social media policy applies whether you're posting from a work computer or your personal phone, during work hours or in the middle of the night. If you post anything online that relates to Pathstone, you must make it clear you're expressing your own personal views, not speaking on behalf of the organization. Do not post content that is false, discriminatory, harassing, threatening, or that reveals confidential information about Pathstone, its programs, or the people we serve. Participant information and program data are never acceptable to share on social media. Personal social media use during working time is not permitted. Pathstone may take disciplinary action for policy violations. Please note that nothing in Pathstone's social media policy is intended to restrict employees' rights to engage in protected speech under Section 7 of the Fair Labor Standards Act. Remote work at Pathstone is a privilege, not an entitlement, and not a benefit that applies to everyone. Whether you can work remotely depends on whether your job duties can be performed as efficiently at home as in the office, which is determined by your supervisor based on the circumstances at the time. All remote workers must sign a remote work agreement, which is valid for up to 6 months and must be renewed. You can only work remotely in states where Pathstone operates. Remote work is not a substitute for childcare, and proof of adequate childcare may be required. Your home workspace must be safe, private, and free from hazards. Pathstone reserves the right to inspect it. Every Pathstone policy still applies while you work remotely, including attendance, timekeeping, drug-free workplace, and IT security. Remote work agreements can be terminated at any time. Let's close with 5 key takeaways. 1. Know your rights. You have real enforceable protections under this handbook and under state and federal law. If something happens that feels wrong, don't stay silent. 2. Know your obligations. Rights come with responsibilities. Every person in this room is expected to uphold these policies. Supervisors have an elevated duty. Yes, you must model and enforce compliance. 3. When in doubt, call HR. You don't have to figure it out alone. We are a resource. 4. Retaliation is never acceptable. Even if you think an employee's complaint was unfounded, retaliation is a separate violation that can expose you personally and the organization legally. 5. The handbook is your reference. Keep it. Know where it is. Thank you for your time and attention today. Pathstone is a stronger organization because of your commitment to these standards. We've covered a lot of ground today. We don't expect that you have our policies memorized in their entirety, but we do expect employees to be familiar enough with the policies in the handbook that they are able to identify when a policy may apply to a specific situation. You may need the help of your supervisor or HR to determine how to apply the policy, and that's exactly what we are here for. Remember that the full handbook is available in ADP Workforce now. If questions come up after today, contact HR or your supervisor. Thank you again for your time and have a great day.